Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian. I'm the host of the Left of Greg show. You're going to be watching the video version of our audio podcast. Please, guys, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more content down there if you're already a subscriber, and a better way for us to get you guys some more stuff. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below. Check out our links down below to get a hold of us and to actually find out more places where you can get more information about this. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at HBPRNA. Remember, all these cases that we discuss and all these discussions that we have are through the lenses of what we call human behavior, pattern recognition, and analysis. So please like it, share it, tell your friends about it, and we hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. All right, Greg. So this is going to be our basically our third in the series on fear that we're doing, and the overarching theme of today's fear episode. Well, it's going to be a couple things, but we're recording this on April 1st for everyone listening right now. It'll be out shortly after that. But this references back to a lessons learned that you wrote. If anyone wants any more information, I'll put that in the episode details. But always check out the Arcadia website. And we put in, Greg writes up the lessons learned. But the title of one of them was April is the Cruelest Month. And now we're going to get into what that means, but especially in related back to fear. But, dates have important historical significant meaning for a lot of people. So like birthdays are important to everyone individually, right? More so in some cultures than others. But also significant dates that we celebrate, whether that's Christmas for religious stuff or non-religious Christmas, or 4th of July. Well, I mean, there's the Santa Claus Christmas, then the birth of Jesus Christmas. So take your pick. But all these dates have significance, and April is a very, very big month for dates. Now, we did a podcast earlier in March called Beware the Ides of March. Mm-hmm. And then now we have April signifying a number of things. When you got Easter, you've got spring being started. So there's been a lot of significant attacks in the month of April. There's a lot of significant dates, even something, well, not this year, but normally taxes are due on April 15th, which is another big date, or the middle of April, I should say. So a lot of people like to attribute some type of kind of superstitious or, some weird universal language of things of why those things happen. And it's partly true and partly complete BS for that. But meaning there's a truth in what people say about some of those dates coalescing and there being a pattern. Now but
sometimes you talk yourself into something.
Yeah. And what you attribute that pattern to can be complete BS.
Exactly.
So let's jump right into it. So in terms
that's wonderful. Brian, if you'd indulge me, can we just say a quick shout out to our good friend in Alberta, Canada, Brian Willis.
Absolutely.
Brian Willis from Ileta. Folks, look it up. ILEETA. Incredible source. Trainers, instructors, please go there. Also, Brian,
I'll put a link in the description.
Hey, that's great. Thank you for doing that. And Brian also hosts the Excellence in Training podcast series. Brian, great stuff. And his own website, Winning Mind, with no S at the end. Just a great guy. I had dealing with him yesterday, and I can't speak highly enough about him and his process. So thanks for allowing me to do that. What I would start with, my opening volley, Brian, would be that names, dates, months, none of them are cursed. You have some people that are diagnosed or undiagnosed as mentally ill. Mental illness people need help. You have other people that have mental issues where they're traumatized by, for example, depression or anxiety, which you bring up all the time, how important anxiety is. And they require intervention. Some just are confused and need guidance. So what happens is that some of them go to the dark side, to the evil, and instead resort to violence, which we all know is a powerful language, hate, death, and fear. Mm-hmm. And so what we end up with, Brian, is that these folks will purposely seek out any bit of information as a cognition bias to prove their point. So let me give you a superstitious one. Black car, white car. more Americans, and I can only speak to Americans because of the study I read and some of the research I did, more Americans believe that good people drive white cars and bad people drive black cars. And
Huh.
so it permeates everything into television, into movies, into novels. What is the bad guy always driving? The black Suburbans are circling the block. The black van came up. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
there's this link, and there's no truth whatsoever to the link.
No, none.
Then, if you go a little bit further back to something that we learned in cop work a long time ago, they said that the drivers of red cars get more tickets because
Right. I've
red is
heard that
visible and they're
before.
faster and stuff.
And
That's
yeah,
horseshit too.
yeah.
There's no statistical
I
significance of either of those
so
two bodies of work.
so to speak to that, that was
Yeah.
the term that I've heard being used for the color red that they used to use on Corvettes,
Yeah.
and someone would refer to it as "arrest me red."
Right.
Which is hilarious, because then people would say, well, red, color of blood, you have a bias towards that color, which in some cases kind of can be true, right? It's a survival
Yeah, well, in
mechanism, right?
advertising,
Yeah.
in certain cultures, red is the color of sacrifice. Like I heard of a place where red, white, and blue is meaningful,
You're
and
right.
red is the color of sacrifice, right? Nobody wants to hear that, though.
Yeah. So that, but yeah, no, like to the point of, the different, how we attribute value to those things, right?
Yes.
So
So my point, Brian,
yeah.
being there, just to make sure that we loop back around, if you do, have you ever? Well, listen to who I'm talking to. Have you ever been in a broken relationship? Wow. Well, let's not open that door. Hold that door closed. Dead inside.
We don't
Yeah.
have enough time for that. We don't
But
have enough time for that.
there are people that walk around and people will say, hey, time heals all wounds. This will go away. You'll be stronger from the scar tissue. I hate platitudes. I hate
Yeah.
people that come in
I know.
and they put the holy water and they throw it around and they put a little incense and say everything's going to get better. To you, those things will never leave because they're etched on a file folder that you're going to live with for the rest of your life. Now, you can manage those feelings. You can choose to put them aside because you love another person. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So just like I would fall into believing that a black cat is going to change my destiny, I
Right.
could fall in and say, it'll never work. We're all going to die and it's not going to get any better. Those are fears that work to our core because we want to be part of the tribe. We want to be brought in. Why do you think my objection recently to, not recently, but it's months old now, to this whole gosh damn social distancing? People are dying because they're socially distanced from others when they need the tribe more than ever. So physical distance is simple, but social distance is the wrong message.
I agree with that's a wrong way to articulate the issue. Like you just said, physical distancing, that makes sense. That just means yeah, yep. And we're supposed to do that, right? Social distancing, probably not a good thing to do right now. And I think we talked about this in the previous one, but we need each other and fellow human beings
now more than ever.
Yeah, now more than ever.
You're exactly right.
You kind of get into I guess with the black car, white car, which reference to the black cat, kind of like a superstition thing. So does superstition come from fear, or what does it have to do with,
with so
fear?
It comes from greed. So an alchemist wanted to turn lead into silver or gold because it was close on the periodic table of elements. So that person didn't want to become the Rhodes Scholar and get a gosh damn Nobel Prize. They wanted to get rich. So I want to write a beautiful poem, Amr Khayyam, whatever that guy's name was, the original Middle Eastern poet and stuff. He's just brilliant. Omar, that's it, Omar Khayyam. And he did it because he wanted to get into some bins. He wanted to get a female to notice him or like him or get into a relationship with a significant other. So we do things. We're motivated by things. So to placate myself, to put up these borders, to put up this fence, sneeze shield around me right now, that's relevant. What I've done is I've said, well, these certain things occur because of something else. And so it's a precursor, like a robin is the harbinger of spring. So when I see a robin in my backyard, I know that these other things are coming. Well, just as much as I believe that in China, no offense to China with all this shit that's going on, but I believe that in China, that the chicken that plays tic-tac-toe can also predict an earthquake. I believe that because there's a scientific link behind it. But all this other stuff about walking under a ladder and, triskaidescophobia and all this other stuff, show me the money. Show me what the truth is behind the fear of 13 or this. It's all luck. It's like lottery. If you're investing in the lottery, as your retirement fund. You get what I'm trying to say?
Right.
You're going to be sadly mistaken because you're not looking at something that's paid dividends over time like the stock market. So I believe in the science of it, not the con science of it that people are selling now. Like every commercial that we're seeing now, Brent, every single commercial that I watched this morning trying to get some news, which I couldn't get, was polarizing because it said, in these trying times, in times like these. That was a Honda commercial. Hey, sell me the damn car. Get off of your pulpit. You get what I'm
Whoa.
trying to say? Because what that does, Brian, it exacerbates the fear and anxiety of humans. And now they're using fear to sell me.
Okay.
Saw the news media. A person today was broadcasting from at home, didn't do their hair, didn't have their makeup on, and was sitting at home like, hey, look, I'm Joey Frump because I want you to see that I'm just like you. You don't know me. We're all part of the same tribe. We should be pulling together, and you're polarizing me with your message of fear.
So that is part of the fear message. I agree. But what about it so what would it mean when people now are like, is our way of coping or understanding or pacifying those fears calling things like, hey, this is now the new normal. This is the new
That's
normal.
horseshit, by
This
the
is
way.
the new. It's like, that you can't, hey, 2 weeks later, we're going to say, hey, this is how things are now. No, this is how things are right now. And just like every other challenge we
it's going to
face,
swing back to wherever it needs to be.
We will overcome, or you can call me out on it, but if we don't overcome it, you won't be able to call me out on it. So
I like the way you're going, Brian. I think I'm going to buy into that lie.
No, but then why do we do that? Because and this ties in a little bit to superstition. This is why I asked you what you thought, because you brought up kind of greed. And that'd be a way to articulate it, right? With superstition and where it comes from. Is it fear, or is it like? But part of it is our brain and us wanting to see a pattern in things, right?
Yes.
So that's like
making order out of chaos. You're exactly right.
So
our brain is much more comfortable. We burn less calories when we see a pattern.
Right. So like if I'm the athlete and I go, man, I forgot to wash my jock strap, and then we won the game, I'm not washing my jock strap for the rest of the season, right? We see that type of behavior all the time.
Was that the smell when you were in the middle seat on the airplane on the way to Liberty University?
It's my lucky
your lucky jock strap. That's great.
But
folks,
we have those.
For anybody listening or watching, Brian was wearing nothing else. Just so you know, that was
is that not appropriate, or
I don't know, on a commercial flight nowadays.
Okay, well, but is that similar? Like, now that's kind of like a different type of superstition than
yeah.
I want to say, I would liken it to falling under the same umbrella of us trying to of us attributing value to something that has no value, or us going
absolutely.
to the side of something that is unscientific and doesn't make sense, but that's what we think it is, so that's what it's got to be.
You're exactly right. So look, if you can't invest 20 seconds into washing your hands 2 or 3 times a day, what chance am I going to get you to look in the mirror and say, I'm morbidly obese? I'm not going to eat fast food 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah.
The idea is that there's life rules, let's call them. And you take a look at like the Mississippi or the Nile or the Amazon. We'll go geographic profiling for a minute. What happens is they all started out, man, they're geysers coming out of rock faces and they're etching the ground. And we get the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, a place that you could visit, Brian, next time you're in town with your lovely wife and daughter. And it's not too far from Rogue Manor West, just 6 miles. And it etches through stone and rock. And then guess what? As you go further down the Amazon, as you go further down the Nile, as you go further down the Mississippi, all of a sudden it starts spreading out and it's more languid. And then by the time it gets to its delta, it's just at a fizzle and it's just kind of going in whatever that riparian area that's going in. They have a name for that where salt water goes to whatever, and I just can't remember that name,
right.
That brackish water. But the idea is that's like this gosh damn new COVID, the new coronavirus, and I move my hands and flash red, danger warning, Will Robinson. The idea is that sooner or later, this is going to go away too. And I want you to liken it not just to the river, but to your relationship. Whatever relationships you ever had, they start off with a bang. And in your case, the terminology is more than implied, folks. Plug the ears of your children. Jameson, a bang, 6 pints of Guinness, and then Brian's married again. But the idea is that whoever that lucky man is, Brian, the idea is that your relationship starts off with a bang and it's on fire. And we're sitting next to each other in a pickup truck, and I've got my hand in your back pocket and vice versa. And it's wonderful, and it can be no better. And then after a couple of years, you and your wife are walking in, or your husband, significant other, you're walking in to go shopping, and you go your separate ways to grab your different things. And
Right.
then and a few years later, I'm sitting in the mall reading USA Today that I got from the hotel on the plane, and I'm going, were we going shopping today? I have no idea where
Yeah.
Shelley is, and vice
Yeah.
versa. So people will come to me and they'll say, I think my relationship is broken. Now, your relationship is dated. It's called the entropic principle. And if you
Right.
look that up, all you got to do is add some spice to it. You get what I'm trying to say? So what's happening here now is all of a sudden nature has coughed or sneezed, no pun intended, and shit's weak right now. And everybody's going, oh my gosh, we have to do all of these ridiculous things. Now you don't have to do anything. You have to make sure that you improve your hygiene. You have to stay away from other people for a while, and this too will pass. But that's not good enough. They have to link
No.
back. They have to link back to religious persecution. They have to link back to Armageddon. They have to link back to myriad things that are going on. And I'm not saying strain your faith, but I'm saying now you're saying those people did it and these people did it.
But that's
it happened.
That's part of our very egocentric view of the world. All
absolutely,
humans,
you're
ours.
absolutely right.
And we always think that whatever's
how does this
happening to us
affect
is the worst. And that goes into just goes into everywhere, because I kind of want to keep it on April here. We'll
get back to that in a minute.
But meaning when we constantly have that egocentric view, and remember, we all do. It's nothing is my pain is the worst.
Exactly.
You don't know what it's like. This is the worst thing to ever happen. When you got I love they're pulling out interviewing these 107-year-old people now that have or older, that made it through the Spanish influenza, lived through world wars, all this, and they're just like, hey man, it's another Tuesday that I've lived. You know what I mean? They're just going like, yes, this is by far gotten better. But to go on a couple things that you brought up. And I kind of want to get back to kind of how I brought up, like, hey, this is the new norm. This is what we do.
Yeah.
That's us. Is that us trying to make ourselves feel better and cope with it so we can move on? I mean, meaning why do the places go? I mean, I understand why the news outlets do certain things.
Yeah. So there's milestones. There's milestones in a person's life.
Sell advertising, get more viewers. But I mean, why does it fall to that? Why did that producer come up with that?
Why do humans keep a book of locks of hair and the disheveled foreskin, or the shriveled foreskin, or the whatever things? But I don't
go into whatever you have in your garage.
No, it's right here on my table. I have it within arm's reach just in case. And it's a 5-skin, by the way. But the idea is that if you take a look, people have memory books. Now, you take a look at Native American culture, and there's a thing called the dream catcher.
Right.
And it looks like a spider's web, and it has all of these different twists and turns where significant events happen in your life. Why do people leave that time capsule behind? Because as humans, we want to be part of something that we can point back to and say, we were part of a community. We did something as a family. We were a father or a mother or a sister or a brother or a teacher or a dad. All of those things are so hugely important to our egocentric view of life that we also want to be remembered for them. Why do we all have a wall of shame at our house? And now you don't.
I don't.
You've got a broken guitar and the pinata picture.
Guitar works.
And a shelf that's made out of a cinder block and 2 pieces of wood. But the idea is that's your whole house. That's your whole life.
This is everything I have. This is what I want to present. And what do I present? The burro with pinata carrying M4s, RPGs, and everything, because
it's so
this to me is just it's wonderful, beautiful insanity, right? It goes a children's pinata celebration, supposed to be amazing. It's a donkey, it's a burro, and it's carrying weapons.
It's the ultimate irony.
It's like, I love it.
Folks, what you don't understand is those are just 3 walls, and Brian is sitting at his local library just north of San Diego. And so he takes that with him. He folds all that shit up, puts it in his cart, and goes back down the street to the next homeless shelter.
That's how I get internet.
Exactly. And but we love you for it. Yeah, but you see, when you have to surround yourself with those things, it's I'm okay. All right. Look, I am somebody. I feel something. Sometimes people cut because they need to feel something. So it has an opposite, a polar opposite.
Right.
Too. And you get what I'm trying to say?
And real quick, I do want to mention too, is like this isn't a judgment of someone who does that, right?
It's a judgment of you, but I mean,
me, of course.
Normal people,
but yeah, most people have, like, we put our accomplishments on the wall. Like, look, especially guys like retired in the military, a flag, of this, the stickers on your car with your family. You're proud of that stuff, like, and I get it. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, but why is I don't want to get into me because
So,
like
so
I have
no,
everything important for me is literally, I'm not joking,
exactly.
it's in a shoebox. And like a couple years ago, when McKaylee first started dating, she's like, "What is this?" And I went through it with her, and she's like, "These are the most incredible stories I have ever heard someone tell. And
In
you
a
have all this
shoebox.
stuff, and you have it all in a shoebox." And I'm like, "Well, it's for me. It's mine.
Exactly.
What's my
So,
life in there?"
so
And no one would know what any of it is
and the idea is
unless,
that it's in a shoebox because it's your bug out kit. Because
yeah.
folks, if you've known Brian as long as I have, relationships are a little sketchy in the Marin household, if you know what I'm saying. So you got to be ready to go, Brian. You never know when you're going to be going,
I did
car
used to
washes,
live.
paying
Yep,
cash.
I did used to live like that. But so
No,
to
so listen. So I have to have like rings on a tree. I have to have the like sands in the hourglass. Such are the days of our lives. I got to have something to look back at. So what I want to do is I want to create an earmark. I want to create a bookmark. I want to create a dog-eared page on the novel of my life and look back so I can say, hey, do you remember when we were going through the
right,
coronavirus? Because that's humans used to be, and we still are, storytellers. To tell your story, it has to be built around something. And so this thing that we're going through now becomes a source of community outpouring. And there's going to be some people that are remembered for it well, and there are going to be some people remembered for it as effing douchebags. And I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. So Kevin can't do my hair, so I got hair sprouting out in all kind of different places. So what I'm going to do is get a top knot so I can be even more of a douchebag. Well, just like that is a bad thing to do. Okay, the top knot on the world's fattest
well,
samurai,
unless
Beverly Hills Ninja.
unless you're a samurai or a ninja, then
Exactly,
okay.
right? Why would you have your hat backwards unless you're a
Yeah,
sniper or a catcher? But the
yeah,
idea, Brian, behind that is that now I read some people again with even the posts and the platitudes and be mindful of the other people
yeah,
around you because the thing and this and that, don't you dare use this or the death of a family member or your dog that told you that message on his gravestone. All that's horseshit. Those are not how you remember people. One, they're alive now. Remember them now. Call somebody that you haven't called in a long time and tell them how much you appreciate them.
yeah.
For the love of God, our dear friend Ray K is dying of the worst unknown brand of cancer on the face of the planet. And he still calls me once a week after treatment, and we have a good conversation for an hour, even though sometimes he doesn't know where the hell he's at. So do it now. That's meaningful. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And yes, we know people are dying, so don't make light of it. But are you going to stop humor and comedy and music and art
I think you
because
need it
there's
more now than ever.
more now
And
than
that's why
ever?
people are saying, hey, you got to relax and focus in on this. And like now is the time. If you're not on top of your workouts and eating
Yep.
right and doing all
Yep.
that stuff, now this is the absolute time you need to
So
be
are
on
we
that.
giving you a visa? Are we
So,
giving you a pass to
but
say that right now you don't have to study, you don't have to do your stuff, you don't have
right.
to, come the hell on.
No, this should be the wake up call. You should have been doing that. But all right, so to get so we kind of segue the conversation.
Yeah,
We're talking about superstition. We kind of brought up like little talismans that we all have, right? Little things
right.
that we like to placate ourselves and our world with.
Yeah, the
Whether
rabbit's
that's a
foot on the
badge.
cheek, the
Yeah,
pillow that we
but
like as a
and that
kid.
goes into the 37 titles you see on someone's LinkedIn bio underneath
Yep.
their name with all
Yep.
the different acronyms and dots and letters, and I don't know what half
Look
of
at
them
who
mean.
I am. Therefore,
But
I'm more important than you are when it comes to my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, but they're showing their accomplishments. It's not
Of
unlike
course they are.
your
And you
CV, right?
should
Your
be
resume.
proud of that
Yes,
stuff. Right.
but and this I'm trying to tie this into fear and where we're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
with
So
this.
let's go to the
And
opposite side of that for a minute,
well,
Brian.
hang on.
Yep.
Let's go to the of why, because you brought up all this. Hey, people collect this and put stuff on their
Yep.
walls, and kind of give a good explanation of why we do that to show this. Hey, I did something. I was a part of something. I'm proud of this. Hey, that's all good. But because I want to keep it on fear and getting into the month of April
Sure.
and why certain things start to happen. So the month of April, right? We always call April is the cruelest month. Not really, but a lot of dates start to coalesce and we start to fear this type of stuff. Oh, there's an increase of attacks. There's an increase of homegrown terror attacks. There's this, and we try to attribute to different things. And a good example of, hey, let's just think about it from a realistic standpoint of how humans used to live and what used to happen and how we're primed to live,
Yes.
right? Meaning, because right now, what typically what happens around March and then into April in places like Afghanistan. Well, the fighting picks up, right? They call that
Yep.
the fighting season. Well,
Snow
why?
melted,
The
passes
snow,
open. You're
right? The
exactly
passes
right,
open, the
Brian.
snow melted.
Exactly
There's a
right.
lot of environmental reasons of why this stuff's occur, right? We're harbored up for the winter, right? Where we lay low. There's not a lot of daylight. We gain weight. We sleep more.
Our
We
circadian
hibernate.
rhythms
Yep.
change. We do. We hibernate mentally and physically. You're exactly
And
right.
then coming out into the spring, it's what? It's time to, it's a new year. It's a new beginning, right? We made it through the winter, so we survived.
Right.
Yay, we're good. Now we got
Hence
weather that's starting to
celebrations
great.
at those 2
Yep.
points, right? Harvest celebrations and
Hmm.
spring celebrations. Every culture has them. You're
and
exactly right.
then we get into, so now you start to see an increase in different now that has also for that's general human behavior of how we work. Everyone does, right?
Yep.
So then you start to see an increase in like different types of terror attacks and things in the month of April. And really that was no different than the increase in all productivity, to use a simple term, I guess, or all activity that you would normally see, not just from something illegal
Precisely.
or terrorist or criminal. So kind of just wanted to segue into that
Yeah.
April and why people do
So
that,
so
why
let's
those dates start
let's
to
think about
coalesce.
that, because what we did, and folks, if you go back, the thanks to Brian Marin, solely to Brian Marin, the Left of Greg podcasts are hugely popular, and thank you to Canada. We're 56 in Canada amongst John Deere owners under 35 years old. We're in the
Is that a
top
demographic?
50. Yeah, it is.
Uh,
We're in the top 50 podcasts in the United States amongst those people that don't give a shit what they listen to, apparently. But the idea is, when we wrote Lessons Learned 11, and everything I write comes from the massive head. It should be on Rushmore, but I'd push the other four guys out. But the idea is that what I try to do is I try to pick a central topic. And on that one, April is the coolest month. What I try to do is pick these random events that happen to coalesce around a date. And therefore, the people put the ominous dominus on it. Now that became the date. Well, here's the balancing point. If you create something like St. Valentine's Day, February 14th, and you have unrequited love, or a person breaks up, now we have a broken vessel. We have a damaged human. And that human sometimes will act out, because most people want their say, some people want their way, and that person may act out. And guess what? A way to get noticed is violence against myself or violence against others, because it's a powerful, strong language. And fear is a way to get things done. Fear is a way to sell your cars. Fear is a way to get people to eat at your restaurant. You don't think that, but take time and look at the advertising world, and it's all in there. Now, if I go back to February 14th and I play that forward to April, April showers bring May flowers.
mhm.
Right now, I could turn this into an episode about fear by saying, folks, if you really want to worry about the nation's seeds. Listen, if the plants can't grow, and then if we don't have people to harvest because of this, quote, social distancing, the physical distancing, folks, if we don't have that, Brian, then the plants aren't going to grow. We're not going to harvest, and there'll be no food by winter. And we're going to go into the bleakest, darkest winter. Holy shit, I'm getting depressed just talking like
Yeah.
that. And that's what's happening, Brian, is what they're going to do is they're going to take a look at things like in Germany, they have the Oktoberfest, at the end of the harvest, the Bach beer, all that
Mhm.
stuff. In Pfingsten, which is their spring festival, I would guarantee that if you look at every culture on the face of the
Yeah,
planet,
there's something
thing,
similar. Yeah.
right? And biker gang, they're going to have their spring run or
Yep.
whatever. So every gang bang, okay, I was going to say gang banger. So the Bloods and the Crips probably got something too. They got that early spring drive by half off.
Yeah.
We're only going to shoot you with a 22. But the idea is that we make jokes, but we're serious here. If you have certain events that coalesce and form that pattern, that groove in the record, that spider web and that gosh damn dream catcher, then people are going to do things around it. So I have the decision to say, today is Uncle Frank's birthday, and I remember him fondly. And I have to commit suicide. I don't want to do it around Easter because that would really bump people out. So I'll do it in memory of Frank. We do those type of things, Brian. We get flipping tattoos on our body that never go away in memoriam of something. We wear memorial bracelets of people that were meaningful to us. So if it's important enough to write on a wall, or to paint on your skin, or to wear some jewelry, it's important enough to pay attention. Meaning other people can see that stress fractures are caused by those events, and either lay off or say, hey, what's on your mind? You get what I'm trying to say? So we can manipulate the strange course of April being the coolest month by knowing that people think that, and then de-escalating the situation psychologically.
Right. And so dates are important, right? For a number of reasons. But once something occurs, then things start to then people look back, like you just
Yep.
said, that was what, Columbine, people said, oh, that was something on Hitler's birthday or something like that, which it had nothing to do with. It was just actually, they're
Everybody,
going to do it
those
the day
50
before, but
theories. You're
yeah.
exactly right.
But
Exactly
the
right.
idea is we start to look too far into those things. And I remember we were down in Benning. This is Fort Benning. This is 7 years ago, right around now. It was right towards the end of March, and we had not a naysayer, but someone higher up at that building it was a building 4 in Fort Benning. If anyone knows, like, there's just a lot of brass in there, right? A lot of higher ranking folks. It's a whole big huge Army
A
and
lot of
Marine Corps, a lot
transmit,
of, yeah.
not a lot of receive.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So I think you have to have a star to even get someone to open the door for you there, because there's so many people walking around. But and so they came in. Well, okay, what's coming up? What's going to happen? Give me a prediction. And you kind of went down the same route and said, well, look, this is what's coming up in April. There's this. There's this.
Yep.
There's tax day. There's anniversary of Columbine. There's this.
Yep.
You see a lot of homegrown or very right-wing extremist groups do have a lot of activity in April. It's probably this, and then you even brought it up. You said, "Look, there's a bunch there. What else is going on? There's the whatever it was. There's the Boston Marathon and all that stuff,
Yep.
and you know what I mean. All of those things start to coalesce, and then the person kind of came back with, well, that's kind of a general statement. It's like it's enough to go, hey, around
Okay.
these
The
certain
prediction
dates, I
occurred.
need to
Right.
I need
Right.
to I need to increase my security posture. I
Yep.
need to do this. I need to do that. And the conversation went back and forth. But the point I was trying to make is what happened on April 15th, 2013, 2 weeks after this conversation, was
Exactly.
the Boston Marathon bombing. And the person was like, oh my God, like, you predicted the Boston Marathon bombing. It's like, well,
But we didn't. But we
right.
told you that
Yeah.
if you increase your essay based on world events, based on local events, based on the emotional temperature of the room that you're in, do you get what I'm trying to say? So it was cornucopic, where I was trying to tell this person, stop, you're your own worst enemy, because you're trying to get me to tie the Mayan calendar to a specific date and say when these things are in line. That's not the way life works. Listen, there's going to be an elephant in the matchbook one day. You get what I'm saying? There are parallel universes. We just aren't smart enough to see them yet. And all those things are going to come to pass. But the predictive analysis part of human behavior pattern recognition and analysis is when the scale is weighted with enough artifacts and evidence that a reasonable person would assume that something's going to happen. And Brian, that's why I brought up February 14th. I know we're playing it back.
Yeah,
But if
no,
you
no,
take a
but
look
that's a
at
perfect
February
example.
14th,
Right.
that's a mark. Now, April, the entire month, has forever been shit upon because somebody comes up and says, wow, that's the month that it's going to happen. So what they're doing, Brian, is they're calling their own reality. What you do is, if you get enough people in a room to believe something is true, you call it out. I read that in the book Slender Man, the horror film. But you get what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say? I have to make order out of chaos. And if my brain can't equate everything that I'm looking at, I will make something up, even if it's a lie, even if it's unreal, to have a box to put that in. Because I have to have these buckets and boxes, and oh, there's a leak over here, and how am I going to fix that? And even if I have to come up with something supernatural, even if I have to come up with something that's implausible, even if I have to create a lie out of that memory to get past that memory of that shitty emotion or that horrible divorce or that pederast that stalked me when I was 11 to 13 years old, I have to come up with some way of reconciling that. Because if not, just like a rotor in a car hitting those spark plugs to get that internal combustion engine working, I'll keep coming to that file folder and it's blank. And it needs to be in a file,
Yeah.
and it will screw my day up, and it'll screw my week up, and it might screw my life up. So don't allow it to create that anxiety.
Well, and I know you, because your thing is always, hey, do your homework.
Yes,
But
sir.
this, because a lot of these cases or a lot of these situations or a lot of these stories that go around are very, very far from what actually happened, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
we
They
come
they
up with
they
some.
grow larger than the pea under the mattress. You're exactly right, and we got to stop doing that. But it's historically how things are done.
Yeah, that's how all things, and then all of a sudden everything from what became Thanksgiving in this country and what it was
Yep.
based on, and people said, well, that's we got to get. look
A
into
lot
the
of seafood at
history,
that first
well,
Thanksgiving.
little look into the history of what it was about and how it became popularity in the 1800s with a, hey, we had like a surplus of poultry and turkeys in the US, and they said, well, why don't we have a day where we make everyone eat,
Got it.
turkey and get there's all these weird things that if you actually research some of the stuff of where it comes
Yeah,
from.
Santa Claus,
Yeah,
Virginia, advertisement people, and people were depressed because of the post, whatever.
right.
Exactly. Do your damn homework, folks.
Yeah. So, but you brought in a couple things to go into April, because now it is April, and like we said, we're recording this on April 1st, so which we call April Fool's Day. I don't know if anyone's got anything for this year. It's kind of like a somber year for April Fool's Day. I thought about waking up
Yeah, but
Harper like
okay.
and going, hey, you got to get to school. They reopened school and we're running late, and then
Oh
we're
my
all
God, what a dick move! Hey, I would make sure that you got the gun locks in place
yeah,
because she
yeah.
knows how to shoot.
She
Listen,
would kill me.
so April Fool's Day is a perfect example.
Right.
April Fools are gullible people.
Hmm.
So we're switching from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar,
Yep.
and some people fell back and didn't want to do it. So instead of January being the beginning of the new year, it was April to correspond with the harvest. But that wasn't good enough for some people, right?
Right.
So these two factions now are fighting, and to this day we have April Fool's Day, Brian. So that's a perfect example. Like Brian, in that lessons learned 11, we wrote about Jeremy Deal, and you recently had
Right.
a couple months ago you had a douchebag incident of your own, where somebody wrote something about Jeremy
Yeah.
Deal and how Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam wrote the song Jeremy the Wicked, and folks, if you've ever been in my class, there's a number of songs I sing. That's one of them.
Yeah,
It's a
that's what
great
play that one.
interlude.
I just got
It's
chills thinking of it. That
creepy.
opening
So,
riff.
so let me give you an example of the facts versus the case. So now we take a look at what I just said about how April Fools, and many people are going, yeah, we got it, we know that. So let's look at Jeremy. On the day that Jeremy died, he wrote what is tantamount to his suicide note,
Hmm.
and he was late because he was waiting in the quad because he wanted to give it to his girlfriend.
Right.
There was so many pre-event indicators, myriad pre-event indicators. He was already going to counsel. He was a broken human, Brian. He needed
Right.
help. He's a unique little snowflake. What happened is he goes into the room and the teacher merely says, "Why are you late?" Jeremy's about to speak and she's like, "Yeah, I'm tired of this. Go see the counselor." She had no idea because her aperture wasn't opened to see all the stress fractures and put them together. All she saw was a kid that showed up late and he's always the problem child. That was her view. Okay. Now you got Jeremy going, "Hey man, all I was waiting for is that one straw to break the camel's back." Now
Hmm.
Jeremy's got that. His girlfriend's going, "Oh my gosh, I've got all this stuff and I love Jeremy, but it's not quite the relationship." She had no idea it was this far. Why? Because what happened is we were looking through a straw and we're looking down there and we're thinking of me first. If we open that aperture and we do a full 360 and we think about, wow, what's the emotional toll of what I just said? How could I de-escalate that situation by going back and saying, "I'm sorry"? How about going, "Okay, time out. I know you're late, but step out in the hall. Tell me what's on your mind." Those type of things would save lives over and over and over.
It.
Those would stop workplace violence and domestic violence, but we don't do them because our ecosystem is too fragile and we don't want to walk across the street and give somebody the time to tell us what's on their mind.
Yeah, and then if anyone doesn't know the story, that was Jeremy Deal. He killed himself in front of his whole class. Then he pulled out a gun and shot himself in front of everyone. It's a horribly tragic story, which is one of the events which I didn't know until I knew, we knew the story from, I think,
Mm-hmm.
from you years ago of Jeremy, of why Pearl Jam wrote that song about Jeremy Deal. They read it in the paper, just like other bands have done, when they see something come across the telex machine, like
Bob Geldof.
yeah.
It was an RT3. You're exactly right, Brian.
But it was also actually Eddie Vedder had inspiration from a kid he went to high school with who did
Exactly.
something that, he was kind of had issues with, and this is what happened to the kid. But he kind of made it in the song about Jeremy.
So he
But
said a very and I don't know the quote, Brian. Maybe you could post that quote.
yeah,
But he said what it was is that on both of those incidents, his personal incidents and reading about Jeremy Deal, that entire child's life was relegated to this one thing in the paper saying so and so shot himself today in the school, and that was it. And he
yeah,
goes,
and
how
that's
could
that.
that be that all
Yeah,
those things that he tried to build in his life are now gone, and it was relegated to one line in a local paper.
right.
And
And that was this is another example of why we always tell people, do your homework and
yep.
don't take too much. You got to deep dive on this. So you read something, some crazy story, or you see something, you have to deep dive and research it on your own, because what happened, I came across an article someone had put out on Medium, that publishing site, which our stuff is on there too. And the woman had said this little clickbait story, which I always tell people, don't be clickbait. Stop reading those articles that say the top 3 things, or the 5 things every Green Beret or Navy SEAL does, or whatever, or the 3 things every CEO. That's junk. Don't even read it.
Yep.
And maybe they'll stop making it, but I doubt it. So here's the thing, and she wrote, her whole story was, hey, did you know that Jeremy, the song Jeremy by Pearl Jam, was written about a kid named Jeremy who killed himself in front of his class. That was the entire story. That was it.
There you go.
And
Wow,
people
thank you.
clapping and, oh, wow, this is amazing. That woman made money off of that. That woman who wrote that shit article made money off of that. And of course, I was like, hey, you know what? I think there's a little bit more to the story. And I posted a link to yours about being able, like, this kid, and her response was, well, what was wrong with my story? And I was like, hey, you, this kid died and didn't need to. Someone could have intervened and saved his life, and he could have been a contributing member to society and done great things.
Yep.
But no one did that. That's the lesson learned. That's the takeaway. Not, oh wow, did you know this kid inspired the song Jeremy? Like, that's crap. That's BS. No, what's the real lessons learned in that story is that someone could have stepped in and stopped that from happening. That's the lessons learned. That's the point. But now she's making a buck off of, hey, this is what it's about. I mean,
Yeah, and Vedder,
you know,
here's a perfect point, Brian, to juxtapose that. Vedder never, ever, ever, ever wrote that song to make money on the song.
no, well,
He
he's a
wrote it to
musician
drop the
anyways.
scales
Yeah,
from the eyes, so
yeah.
you go forward and you could go, wow, thought provoking. And in some small way, Brian, I hope that our posts are that way. I hope that our podcast lets somebody that in the rest of their day that's very busy and hectic, in the hour that they spend with us, they go, wow, I never considered that. Maybe Jack is hurting. Maybe Sherry does need an extra minute of my time or whatever else.
Yeah.
Because look, Jeremy Deal, an amazing human being, a wonderful kid, was just like all of us, had issues. And guess what? He didn't get the right amount or the right type of intervention at the right time, because he was already going through counseling, but it just wasn't enough. And you can't save everybody. Some people are on that path to destruction,
Yeah.
Brian, and no matter what
Right.
Hail Marys we're throwing, we can't, okay? But thank God Jeremy took it out on himself. It's a horrible thing for me to even say, and didn't kill everybody in that classroom, because he had that chance to do it. And sadly, there was a cluster of other suicides there. And everybody goes, oh, you don't know shit about suicide. Hey, I know what it's like to hurt. And when I'm scared and when I hurt and I'm get depressed and anxious and I see that the days aren't going to change, why do you think I'm so vocal about this social distancing?
So
There's people right now that think this event is the worst thing in their life and they're going to blow their brains out because of it. Nobody's
right.
even covering those deaths. We got coppers that are full, Brian. Their cups are full. Emergency room workers, nurses,
Oh, geez,
Sean's
yeah.
wife Renee, all these other people that are going through all this tremendous stress, that they're one step away from that. And you can change that. You have the power at home to look at April and go, April itself is an anxiety producer. So I need to de-escalate April and find a new way of making everybody happy and smart and savvy rather than fear it.
Well, and right, and taking away the right lessons learned and understanding what the story is actually about. Because here's the thing: when Pearl Jam did that song Jeremy, and then they made a music video for it. So when they couldn't show the actual music video,
Yep.
I think MTV and VH1
Yep.
back when they actually used to play music
Because
videos.
it was gonna make
Well,
people go out and mimic.
it was too graphic, and so they did this edited version where it shows like blood going on the students, and which actually changed the message. And now actually people thought it was, oh, he went in there and killed a bunch of people. And then when the next school shooting that happened after that video came
They
out,
tried
the
to
parents, they tried to say,
rope it
oh, it's
back.
because of this song they were inspired. Look, no one is inspired by a song to go kill another human being.
That's it.
They already want,
book.
they already have that in them. They already
Yep.
want to do them. So
Yep.
so this get, a perfect example. Everyone who's out there and listens, anyone who listens to Rammstein while they're working out, Du Hast, it's that loud jam out metal music. It's great to work out to. I used to until I found out, well, who else used to listen to that stuff when they were slaying bodies.
Every serial killer.
Yeah, and I mean, you go back to the school in Beslan, right? And you had other Chechen terrorists and stuff like that. They were it's the same thing. They're listening to that stuff too, and you're going, oh
to
wow,
get amped up. They get
well,
it.
it's the same thing that people love quoting the poem Invictus, right?
Yeah.
And constantly see that quote everywhere. What is it? I'm the captain of my fate, or captain of my soul, the master of my fate, or whatever, however it ends. And which, by the way, that the guy who wrote it, if anyone can write into the left of Greg at gmail.com without researching and actually tell me who it was, you don't know, because that was the only thing that he ever did that ever got published.
You get the free red mouse.
But here's the thing, and then who hijacked that poem?
I just blinded myself, by the way. Yeah,
But
exactly.
Tim, then when Timothy McVeigh is being executed, what does he do? He recites that poem. So it's weird how we pick and choose what we want
What's
to blame.
Charles Manson's
Oh my God!
great quote, Brian? Okay, when
If I
talking about
haven't seen it, it's new to me.
there you go.
I learned
So
that new today, and I can't wait for tomorrow.
even a broken clock, Brian. No, what happens is we cannot allow an event to hijack our emotions. We cannot allow a month or a day to be so influential to us that we have dread and anxiety come. Look, if you're saying that you got a court date coming up or you're waiting for a test, a really important
Important
test,
blood
you
test.
get what I'm trying to say, fans of Family Guy? If you're saying that, I agree that there's anxiety that goes with that date, and that's normal, absolutely normal. And I mean normal in the clinical sense, Brian, not that
Yeah.
there's normal and abnormal
Right.
people, right? So I'm talking medically and clinically and
We
psychologically.
fall within social norms and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those type of dates, you get what I'm saying? Like a harvest schedule. If my beans don't go to market on certain day, I'm going to lose money. Those are normal things to have anxiety about, and I would understand that. But projecting this image about this is the apocalypse and Armageddon and doom because April is coming, I say let's turn that around. Let's demonstrate how powerful humans can be in a community together, and let's not allow that to happen by reaching out, by using this time. Brian, podcast dropped off 60% because people are watching bad news. The
Yeah.
news blows. The news is horrible, and they're treating it like the people in a hurricane, or the weather people that go out with an umbrella and get drugged down the street just to get the ratings improved. Just like your clickbait, don't fall for it. And I say we should hold those people and our politicians and everybody else accountable because we control the message. They don't control the message. We control it. And it should be a message of hope and love and facts, not fear. That's what we have to change it to.
Yeah, and part of that is who you surround yourself and what you follow. It's like I always say, people
You're exactly right.
people bash social media and stuff that happens on Twitter. I was like, well, I'll send you my Twitter feed because it is hilarious. I follow people that are just wicked smart and super funny and post great stuff, and that's what I surround myself with. And guess what? It makes me smarter. It makes me happier. Puts me in a good mood. I go on there and laugh so hard. And of course, right now,
and laughter's the best medicine. There, Patch Adams.
Yeah, the Tiger King memes going
oh
around
my
right
God.
now.
So you got to
funny.
link up with my brother Brian Williams because Brian is on that all the way through that upside down and everything. And he's calling me these episodes. I do not have time in my life for all of those blunt skulls and their idiocy.
I watched the first 2 episodes nonstop. Didn't say a word. My mouth was on the floor the whole entire time. I mean, absolutely amazing. But we could do a whole podcast on Joe Exotic and the Tiger King. But this was all right. So fear playing into how we categorize and organize information, how we process it, how we look at a story, dates, times, locations. Names is another one. So one of the things
names,
that, like, because it's all falls under fear. And one of the things you'd ask is, can a name be cursed? That we see different patterns of different names popping up, and
Damien, anyone?
so what's in a name is the big thing, and
exactly.
It does if we attribute value to it. And we say, hey,
if we assign a value. One, don't fear the reaper. Okay, it's in the Bible, and
I heard that
it's
song.
also a great song because death is a constant, and death is the only always fatal sexually transmitted disease that each of us share as humans that are going to kill every single one of us. So death is nigh. It's coming. Do you get what I'm saying? Look busy. But the idea of attributing my mortality to a name or to a product or to a date, it's not going to happen. I am the master of my destiny there, Invictus, and I'm going to choose a message that helps me get to the finish line. Do you know that in ancient cultures, sometimes they would have everything brought around their deathbed because they wanted to be able to see what they did? Okay, look, we're back to the douchebaggery. live a moral, decent, legal life, enjoy yourself, and then when there's times of trouble, go across the street and help your neighbor. Well, guess what? I can't go across the street and help my neighbor because there's restrictions against it. But now more than ever, social media, which I completely don't understand and I'm a neophyte at,
Yeah, I know. I know.
is available to reach out to people.
It's gonna remind you, don't like your own posts and comments on LinkedIn. It looks weird.
I have no idea how to do that.
I know.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm
You're just like
I'm
hitting like bites. I know.
I don't know what I'm doing. And the other thing is, I see people where they put that hashtag thing. That's the number sign for me, folks. So I don't get that.
It's pound.
And the other thing is, why are they highlighted and some messages go everywhere? One, folks, my messages go nowhere. And I'm well-meaning. I'm not some sort of cyber stalker, and I have no idea what to do when it comes down to that.
No,
but, I have opinions just like the next guy.
It's always fun seeing your interactions on those things because
I'm an idiot. Here's another great quote by Charles Manson. Everybody has an opinions. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and most of them stink. He said that just before he carved the swastika.
The same thing with Charles Manson. People think people think he was that was that crazy serial killer, right? Like he didn't kill anyone. Charles Manson didn't kill a single person.
He made some really good music too.
He's hanging out with the Beach Boys back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. No, but horrible individual, manipulated other people to do his dirty work. But that's it's another example of how these stories.
He controlled their message, didn't he? Do you get what I'm saying?
And how stories over time take on different meaning, and all the facts get dropped on the side, and it comes into this guy.
Do your homework, hold people accountable, be transparent in your dealings. All great words of wisdom. And Brian, they've been around forever. Why? Because it's a social science. You know what I'm saying? They stick around because they're the right things to do. So this voodoo mystery history, and I'm not bashing voodoo for anybody that practices Santeria. I'm just saying that all of these things that are out in the shadows that people fear, bring them into the light of day. Look them in the eye, and not with the jaundiced eye of the gosh damn yellow journalist, but look them in the eye, and you'll find out they're not that scary. It's killing people. And the projections could go up to 200,000 or 500,000 people are going to die. And guess what? This is the latest thing. And if we work together, we can fix this.
So and that's a good way, because I know this is kind of like our third episode on fear, right? And I think that is probably
great first
good for
episode.
Now. But
wow, the gosh darn Dr. Anderson. Wow, Dr. Reagan Anderson. Mover and shaker, folks.
But let's get into the because what you just said is, well, then how do you get around this? How do we understand this? What am I supposed to do? And you just brought it in. It's that facing your fears, right?
Yes.
It's just like I read a book to Harper, and it's a kid's book, but it's a great story, and it's all about
everybody poops.
No, I haven't read it that one, but
okay. I'm sorry, that's the one I got on my desk.
And she loves reading it. Is that it's all about, hey, it's about Mikey and the dragons, and he's got to go fight the dragons, and then when he gets there, he finds out they're like a foot tall and they're adorable and there's friends, and the whole point of it's all in your head, right? And that's the whole the underlying message is face your fears, go out into the fray, and realize that you know what, it's not really as bad as I thought it was.
But that doesn't mean do it recklessly or cavalierly. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
No, that's what your 20s are for.
Exactly. That's what bourbon is made for, folks. Bourbon is the juice you drink just before you do those stupid things. Listen to me. G. Gordon Liddy wrote a book, Will, W-I-L-L.
He's insane. That guy was insane.
Gordon Liddy, used to want to be better at shooting, so he would shoot until he had cracks on his trigger finger and his hands from shooting so much. He would buy that liquid skin to put in them and continue shooting.
Just get a better instructor. I don't know.
G. Gordon Liddy was afraid of rats, so he beat to death a rat in his basement, cooked it, and ate it. G. Gordon Liddy was afraid of storms and lightning, so he lashed himself to an oak tree out in his yard and endured a horrific storm that came through. Okay, folks, we're talking about extremism. We're talking about going to an extreme. You can do all of that same stuff. Like, do you remember the Maury Povich and all these other?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, don't even get me started on those idiotas.
You,
But you remember
yeah,
where he
you.
would
I
go, people are afraid of mayonnaise, and they would chase people around in the audience, or
Oh, I thought he
the
did all that.
spiders or the fear.
You are not the father.
Yeah, but remember, you're controlling your own message. You're probably watching for a very different reason than I did.
Oh, I hope I don't get invited on this show.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Those are called phobias, right? And everybody has a phobia. People
Yeah,
have phobias
absolutely.
of elevators, or
Absolutely.
of agoraphobia, of going outside, or of heights. Listen, it's okay to be afraid of certain things, and even okay to have irrational fears, because we don't really know all about our neurochemical transmitters, and some of those signals may have washed across from other
Right.
people in our DNA, right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's safe to face them. And if you can't face them, Brian, this is what I would tell you. What would Jesus do? What would Geppetto do? Whatever's on your wrist. Okay. I would say, if you can't face them, at least talk about them. And if you can't talk about them, write about them. And if you can't write about them, read about them, because those are important things. When you socialize it, the problem isn't that big.
Well,
the dragon's actually a dear friend.
It ties right back to what you said earlier about, we can't let an event, control our emotions. And so I think that's
or
right.
control our destiny. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that goes
hijacks us. Yeah.
Facing a fear, right? So if I'm less educated and I have a lower level of training, I'm likely to have a higher level of fear and a higher reaction to an event, whether that's an emotional event,
if you're a
physical event.
If you're a copper, you can tie those 2 points to the less I am trained, the less emotional stability and emotional readiness for an event that I have, the more I'm going to respond through fear with violence. So I'm going to increase the physical stakes of our encounter. When I'm in a domestic situation at home and I'm arguing with my significant other, and they bring up, which people are wont to do, they bring up, well, when you were 3 years old, you shit your pants on the first day of school and everybody laughed at you because you were wearing lederhosen. It really happened, folks. Thanks for that. Bringing back the memory or whatever. Why? We fight dirty. We fight dirty because we want to bring up those episodes we're not so proud of that don't go on our wall of fame. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And actually populate our wall of shame. We have to stop that. We can control our message, but we're fragile. And guess what? There's seams and gaps in our cups. So, folks, if you keep poking through there, you're going to break through. And maybe that's going to be too late for me. Maybe I'll hurt myself or hurt others because I can't control my message. So we need to see that. We need to feel that. We need to scale it back a little bit, and especially during months like April.
Well, yeah, and okay, so given the current new normal, the situation that we're in, right, all that, the fear, but this is what gets into it. And I, perfect example is the other day, because you just brought up, fear can lead to higher levels of violence, right? We're more likely to overreact. Humans are. Any human is. If you're scared and you don't understand something, you have a natural fear for it. That's biology at play. That's your ancestors survived because they went, I don't trust what's coming over there. Right,
exactly.
I don't trust what's coming over that ridge line over there. We better either take off and get out of here because I think they might fight us. And you live to survive another day, pass those genes along, right? So we still have that in us. And it just goes to when I texted you the other day, right? So we're in the middle of all this stuff. Obviously, Kaylee's at home. I'm at home. We got Harp's at home. I'm trying to do some schoolwork with. Just hate, death, and fear on the news of everything that's going on.
Every minute.
And then what happened to us? Boom, power goes out at our house. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. So I got
the text on the shoe phone, and Shelly said, if he leaves now, he can be here in 9 hours.
Yeah.
That's Shelly. Because Shelly, heartbeat, beep, 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 beep. She already had processed all that information.
Yeah, I already know the way there. I've driven there. I don't even need anything. I'm like, all right, let's go. I can load up enough gas to make it without, I could just pull over on the side of the road and fill up. But anyway, I immediately texted you to hey, if you don't hear from me in a while, and you see a 4Runner coming up your driveway, don't shoot. That's me, right? And then I made the joke to my same thing, group text message to my buddies, like, well, this is it, boys. If you hear any gunfire, that's just me leaving town. Stay put. I got to grab some supplies from the neighbors that I saw them stocking up on. But I couldn't make those jokes in front of Kaylee and Harps, right? I had to sit there and be like, all right, like,
no,
hey,
because you can't be that human.
No.
Because meaning, you're an icon in another manner, in another fashion, and that's why you can't also ever get physical with McKaylee or argue or make her cry or have her make you cry instead of Harper. Because the minute you do that, The minute you do that, you've changed the wiring diagram.
Well, right. And the other thing was to, they're going to be a little bit more scared. Whereas I mean, how many
Of
situations we've
course
been
they
in
are.
where we're just like, okay, well, we'll figure it out, or we can move to the next place, or there's this, everything goes wrong. We've been in a million chaotic situations, but
Yep.
other people haven't, don't have a contingency plan. So it's like, all right, so what do we do? I sent you photos like, all right, let's go out. We're going to go on a long walk. I'm going to go out. We're going to go over by the lagoon. Hey, I'm going to teach Harper this, this, and this. Hey, see how the current comes in. You can read that and see why it's different right there. That means it's actually not very deep there. You could probably stand up. It's only up to your knees. How the little breaks over here, and she could understand that and get out and get your mind off things and then come back. But it's just when you couple all those things. So my joke was to my buddies, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna go start a car fire near me, because that's what it's everybody gonna see. Once, okay, pandemic, no power, there's a car on fire, that's
exactly.
it. It's looting and shooting time.
It's on.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly. You might as well send that message. It's on, right?
It's the
hey, everybody's just waiting for that nudge, and you just gave it.
Yeah, no, but that all comes from fear. So
it does.
Someone
it
a lot
does.
smarter and a lot more experienced than me once said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And
exactly.
but that's
another platitude.
It's a platitude
unless we live it.
Right, but here that's how complicated this is. It's like, yeah, like it's actually harder to understand and deal with a fear that I can't really see, or I can't process, or I don't fully understand, than it is to a guy trying to beat me up or take my money or something. That's a fear, but you got left and right lateral limits on there. There's some understanding.
Yes.
Even if you have no training in anything, you've seen something like that in a movie before, right? That's not that's not some alien life coming down, right?
Exactly.
So when we have something like this that we're in right now, with the situation where we can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't taste it, we can't feel it, man, that gets scary. So how do we bypass that fear? Education is one.
Education is one. The other is yellow pad. Everybody's got a yellow pad. Take out your yellow pad and you start saying, I control my own message. So today, I'm going
what is
to
the
work
message
out
I want
10 minutes longer.
Exactly.
I am going to eat healthier today because I'm ready for whatever's coming down the pipe. I'm going to send a text message to my neighbor that I haven't seen, asking them if they're okay and telling them I'm praying for them, or whatever else. I say this now. We do these empty, gosh damn mission statements all the time. This is the first time that you write your mission statement. You put down on that yellow pad what's important to you, what's important to the people you love, and what you're going to do about it today. And all that hate, death, and fear will dissipate. It'll go away. Because now you're doing something.
Yeah.
Brian, I walk around, and on the mornings that I work out later than other mornings, I'm singing the song from my run mix in my head because my brain chemistry is trying to tell you, get your ass down there, fat boy. It's time to run. And guess what? You can change your life, and you can improve the quality of someone else's. Wouldn't you want to do that? If you had that in your grasp, and you do, wouldn't you want to do that? That's that simple to me.
No, I think that's the best takeaway. I mean, we always say do your homework and yellow pad everything. Just if you didn't,
honestly,
if you didn't, and a lot of people listening know this, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen, right? So you have to actually take the time to write something down and say, all right, this is, like you said, we control our own destiny. We control our own message. All right, well, what do I want that message to be? Well, let me write it down and go, well, how do I?
And that message can change, Brian. It can change over time. It will evolve and it will grow and it will have filigree on it, and it will start getting a little bit of stain like copper turns that beautiful green. But it's your damn message, and you should be proud of it, and you should wear it for everybody else to see. Like my tramp stamp. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You should wear that.
The dolphin riding a unicorn that you have tattooed on your lower back
in full living color, buddy. But I'm proud of it, and I wear it like a flag.
Yeah, it says follow your dreams, and so
exactly.
All right. Well, I think that's unless you have something else to add, I think that's probably a good.
Now that was a shocker, if you know what I mean.
Oh, jeez, look, I don't care what you. All right.
Exactly.
No more Family Guy references.
Time.
We do still want to get hired when all this blows over. So,
exactly.
So we can't say too much. But
are you broadcasting these? Yeah.
So that's and I know we did kind of a 3-part series on fear, and
thanks folks for listening.
Yeah, to all you listening, 1, we appreciate it. 2, I hope it brought a little bit of light and levity and understanding to the situation. And 3, if you guys have questions or want to know something or want us to elaborate on something, just leftofgreg@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook at HBPRA. If anyone, those of you who have reached out, we appreciate it. Those of you going to the Patreon site, the Left of Greg Patreon site, we appreciate it. People are reaching out and asking questions. For some of you, I can get to you right away. Some might take a day or two, but I always respond. So please, those of you who have, you all know, are like, yeah, he responds right away. So
Exactly.
especially right now.
Brian Willis said that yesterday.
Yeah.
He goes, Ed Marin, he's Johnny on the spot when it comes to responding.
Yeah, so we appreciate the interaction for those who have, and if those who are curious about something, please just email us.
And I make a prediction. Now that I know better, I will never click a like on my own LinkedIn ridiculous messages anymore. Thanks, and I am so embarrassed for that. Thank you very much.
It is April 1st when we're recording this,
and I am the fool.
So okay, we'll call you the fool, and then we'll
please do.
Back to our normal episodes. But we appreciate everyone taking the time to listen to us in. So if you liked it, please share it, subscribe, share it with your friends, send them a link. Go hit the like button, or give us a review, a rating. Just hit stars, however many you think we deserve. Please do. That helps actually a lot more than you think. I know we're all right now, especially I'm trying to do it out by me, is supporting local businesses, restaurants and stuff. There's a lot of great, cool places near me. And so I'm still trying to go get takeout, order it online, and support them because they're having a hard time. Well, we have a small business. Simply sharing and liking our stuff on social media goes very, very far, a lot farther than people think, because it creates that snowball effect. And then the next thing you know, it's moving. So to all you who already have liked our stuff and follow us, appreciate it. Everyone else, please take a second out of your day, help out a small business right now that does in-person training. So we're a little bit on pause.
One that's very
now.
close to you that you might be listening to.
So due to the current restrictions on
shameless douchebag plug
physical distancing, we a like or a share goes a lot more than you think. So
hey, listen, and I vow from this day forward, not only the LinkedIn thing, but Marin, I'm going to let that top knot grow out.
Go for it.
What I'm trying to say, I'm just going to have it in full effect. It's going to be flopping over the top.
I think you should. I think it'd be a good look for you. All right. That's good. Everyone else out there, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget, training changes behavior.